Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, my readers. Today, this is part one. I'm going to discuss. This is Applied Linguistics group, and we have how to prepare for PhD Viva, part five. That is related to problem statement. How to present your problem statement to defend your problem statement during PhD Viva, and some other parts of chapter one like objectives, research questions, uh, and literature review, citations and referencing. But I have to see the time limit because uh, 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 for these all things, 1 week is not enough. I will see if I could do it today or if the rest of the part I can do because uh, something is I think first we should start, and when we finish problem statement, we see if we have time, we can go for other things. Otherwise, we can divide it into part six. What is the research problem statement? That's very important question. First, you should understand when you are going to defend your thesis pre-viva. So you must know your problem statement. A problem statement is used in research work as a claim that outlines the problem addressed by a study. The problem statement briefly explains the problem that the research will address. Where there is a problem, there is a need of research, and people start writing master thesis, MPhil thesis, or PhD thesis. So, what is research problem example? That's one of the thing you must know. A research problem is a statement and an area of concern, a condition to be improved, a difficulty to be eliminated, or a troubling question that exists in scholarly literature, or it can exist in theory. It can also be in practice that points to the need of meaningfully and understanding and liberate investigations. What is the problem? What is the background information of the problem? So you must know it. If you have good background information of your thesis problem statement, you will be able to define it very nicely in front of the Viva committee. So what is the background information of the problem? So the background information should indicate the root of the problem being studied, appropriate in context of the problem, in relation to theory, research, and I think practice, its scope, we can say, and the extent to which previous studies have successfully investigated the problem, noting in particular where gaps exist that your study is feeling, there's a need of your study to fill that gap. So another question comes in the mind, they can ask during defense, how do you introduce a problem statement? If they ask you, what is your problem statement? And then how you will introduce a problem statement in your defense, during defense. So describe your problem and its significance. Okay, go to the background. You must know the background first, then describe your problem and its significance. Briefly provide some background for your problem to give your audience some context before you describe your problem. I'm saying again and again, all my video audience, because it's not only the committee. Viva defense is open in many universities. So many other PhD students, master students, they're also invited sometime by the university to see it, and they can see it if it is online. They can see it. So that's why I'm calling them audience. Okay. So the other thing, number two, is describe your problem in words. Give an overview of how your problem, how you propose to solve your problem. That's very important. Explain why studying your problem is important. There, these things, if you can nicely explain, that your defense will be very nice. Also, other thing is the commonly related question is how do you defend a thesis statement? Because your thesis statement is also very nice. I think anticipate questions and prepare for them. We have mentioned, I think I mentioned you before many questions, but you can really prepare for most of the questions. You will be asked. Your supervisor has already guided you. You have to delegate, have a backup plan, what to do when you don't know the answer, dealing with your nerves, So that's you can see because you have a full grasp on the thesis statement, problem statement, you know it. How do you clarify a problem statement? That's the main question. The following question will help to clarify the problem that a policy brief addresses. For example, number one, I can say, what is the problem and how did it come to the attention? Okay. In the last part, I give an example of Newton and apple, okay, and gravitational pull. On number two, how has the problem been framed, described, and what are the consequences of this framing? That's very important. How big is the problem? Okay, is it very serious that it needs a PhD study, or if there's a small problem, can be done for a research paper also. The small research paper can solve that problem. What is the cause of the problem? What are the issues in, for example, cause of the problem? In my subject, I can say applied linguistics. What are the issues in applied linguistics? There are some issues in applied linguistics, for example. There can be many, but for some examples, in addition to foreign language teaching and machine translation, a partial sampling of issues considered central to the field of applied linguistics today includes topics such as language for special purposes, for example, language and communication problems related to aviation, language disorders, law, medicine, and science. These are the, I mean, that can be, you can describe, there can be a lot of things smaller than this. I went for, issues in applied language in the broader sense. Maybe you have just on language disorders, you have just a problem in legal English, okay, medical science English, okay, technical terminologies of medical science, maybe. So how does clarifying the cause of the problem help? That's also very important. When you explain your problems, you have to go for this one. Your purpose in clarifying the issue is to identify and gain a clear understanding in which component of the focus area is a problem or strength and which aspect of the component is the area of concern. That's very important. So you have to try to define it. Then it can be a question, what is the difference between research problem and problem statement? You must understand the difference between both of them. Research gap is the research problem discovered after you would conduct a rigorous literature review. Problem statement is a constructed sentence, how you describe your research problem, which is usually a subset of your research problem. So this is the difference between both of them. Any problem statement and objectives are the same. Please be careful. A research problem is a broad issue that you would like to address through your research. Research objectives are clear statements of what you aim to achieve through your research. They are specific actions that you will take and act as milestones that will help you complete your research. In chapter 1, your examiner who was given chapter 1, she can ask you question, what are your objectives of the research, what are the research questions, but problem statement they can first ask and then they can ask you these questions. So what comes first, that's why you have to see, as I described you, what comes first, problem statement or objective. Every research is aimed at addressing an identified problem. So right after the statement of the research problem in the objectives should be stated such that it provides solution to the problem as you want to solve. So definitely the research questions must follow the objectives. Another question can be asked for chapter 1, what is the ultimate goal of statement of the problem? So that's in this way, or what is the objective of the problem statement? Okay, what is the problem statement? This can be. The ultimate goal of statement of the problem is to transform a generalized problem, something that bothers you, a perceived lack, into a targeted, well-defined problem, one that can be resolved through focused research and careful decision making. It can be a big gap, and you're going to fill that gap through your research. What are the things you should remember about writing statements of the problem? There are, I think, few things. For example, when I was doing it, my supervisor, she guided me, clarify the vision before you can decide how to solve a problem. You must know what you are trying to accomplish. Okay, define the problem, then determine the context, identify the impact of this problem, make a business case like this if you have such background of the research, identify the gap, explain the causes, what are the causes, and what is the solution, select a problem solving method that can help you, which is more important to problem statement or hypothesis. So hypothesis, and it sometimes it seems they can make you confused between a problem statement and hypothesis. So I want to make it clear. While your problem statement identifies the problem you hope to resolve, okay, but the hypothesis helps you decide on how you will try to solve it. That is the difference between both of them. Don't be confused. What are the two types of statement of problem? Okay, for example, you have 7 statements, 8 statements. They can ask you what are the 3, whatever is the most important one. If they ask what are the 2, there are 2 general types of problem statements. Okay, quantitative and qualitative. That's the main thing. You try to understand. Quantitative, you should divide it one by one and try to describe it. Okay. I think the first example I gave you problem statement you are defining in applied linguistics. Now we go problem statement example in education. For example, because this is chapter 1 defense of Viva for everybody, whether it's from computer science, he's going to defend his in ultrasound, in emergency medical services, in pediatric, in RT, or that is going to do in applied linguistics, medical education, whatever it is. I think in college we submit test reports, projects, and assignments that start with either an abstract or an introductory paragraph that explains the contents. There are the problem statement examples in education. It could be the basis for a master thesis, or could be the basis for a PhD thesis or MPhil thesis that addresses the problem and explains the method used to solve it, along with the results. For essays and reports, problem statement can be longer than a problem statement in a professional context. Okay, here is one example I have for you. For example, there have been several problems with transitioning to a fully online study model in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic, because this is the current study now. Everybody is doing on COVID-19, and medical oriented researches are now very popular if they are on COVID-19 or they are on Omicron or whatever it is, or Delta, the 3 variants. They are very, very now serious in the world. The world is like to have new research on them. If it is a research paper or emerging new research paper, but most of the institutions, they are asking, forcing their faculty to go for research papers on COVID-19. But most of them, they prefer, if it is a medical education, University of Health Sciences or medical education department or College of Medical Sciences, they ask for a thesis, PhD or MPhil or master thesis on COVID-19 pandemic, so that can solve the problem of the world. The report aims to discuss, you can describe it like this way. There have been several problems with transition to a fully online study model in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic. The report aims to describe the advantages and disadvantages of this transition with interview and case studies. The study has interviews from 11 K-12 teachers in charge of different courses and subjects. Their experience of teaching online classes with a cohort of different sizes reveals that online learning is challenging but disadvantageous in the long run. So this is the way. I give you one example. In medical education, the problem statement can be a few paragraphs long, okay, not too much. You can add any setbacks you face, how you overcome them during your research in medical education. It's important to set the context like you would for a layperson. Don't consider that there will be a lot of audience and there will be the dean of the faculty, or there can be professor, your supervisor, the other examiner. No, just consider them layman sitting in front of you and try. Define problem to find the solution. Easy way, not in a difficult way. The first step in problem solving, one of the greatest workplace skill, I think that's one of the things you must understand, is to define the problem in a clear and concise terms. If you want to communicate a problem to others, they need to be able to understand it without diving into much background information. Okay, make it very small and try to define as the best way they should understand. I try to teach you how to present a problem in a simple, streamlined manner. This is what I did in part 5, how to prepare a Viva, okay, for problem statement chapter 1. From barriers to problem solving to identifying the definition framework, our help modules. I think you can go to my Facebook applied linguistics group and see we have different modules there. Those will transform you into an effective problem solver, and you will be able to present your problem statement very nicely. I have given a lot of examples there. Become a solution and goal-oriented professional with the right toolkit to achieve excellent results from your PhD Viva. I have greater wishes for you and good luck for you for your PhD Viva. And thank you very much. That is enough for today. I will go for next video in part 6. Okay. What are the other questions of chapter 4 and literature? That's all literature review. What are the expected questions for the chapter 2? We'll have theoretical framework, conceptual framework, and you have a lot of literature review, so theories also. So this we will discuss in chapter next. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.